Alrighty, so welcome to module number 1. This is the first module in the course. It's going to be on accounting, and I'm actually going to be breaking down each of the major plugins that I think you should consider installing on your website. But essentially, the main meat of this module is going to be on accounting. How much does it actually cost? Not just to build your website, but also to maintain your website. And yeah, so let's just jump right into it. It's probably going to be the only module in which you're going to hear me speak and ramble for a little bit and not actually do something. But this is probably going to be one of the most important modules for you, because I'm actually going to tell you how much you can expect to be paying, not just upfront, but also on a month-to-month basis. So let's just jump right into it and talk about modules. All right, so let's just for the sake of clarifying this, I'm going to be talking about and referring to two different types of expenses. The first one is one-time payments that you're going to probably make up front before even working on your website, and then the other type of payments are going to be just reoccurring expenses that you're gonna have. Now, just as a quick heads up, throughout those slides, throughout the whole presentation, you're going to be seeing two different things. The first one is the the one-time expense column, the reoccurring column, and the reoccurring expenses column is going to be on a month-to-month basis. Note, however, that some of these plugins that you're going to be paying for, and some of these expenses that you're going to actually have, will force you to make an upfront payment for a whole year. Whenever that's the case, I'm just going to break this down into, divide it into 12 months, and you can calculate your month to month expense. But some of these will actually require you to make the whole 12 month payment upfront. So just keep that in mind. And all right, so now that we've actually said that, the only other thing that I should probably mention is that if you see a small little star icon, that means that depending on what kind of niche you're in, what kind of website you're trying to build, you may or may not want to use this plugin. And I'm going to be talking about all of these different plugins as we go, so don't worry, I'll make some suggestions and recommendations to try to help you out. All right, so let's start. The first basic expense that you've probably, if you're watching this video, you're probably already paying for this, and you probably already have this set up, is your domain and your hosting. Domains typically average, if you buy them from GoDaddy, between as low as probably like a few bucks a year, and then up to around $20 a year, something like that. Unless you buy somehow a super premium domain that, I don't know, like money.com, or, some of these fancy names where you can actually expect to pay a much higher price for that premium name. But typically, if you're buying your own name, or, a simple custom URL domain, they're pretty cheap. So I'm going to average that to $12 a year, which, on a month-to-month basis, that adds up to $1 per month. And then hosting is really very, hard for me to actually narrow down. If you're, there's a few different ways you can actually do this. You can actually rent out your own server, which is probably kind of very pricey. And then, if you're planning on building an agency and you want to rent out space within your rented server, you can probably charge some money for that, which is what I particularly do. A few perks on doing this is that you're probably going to have a lot of, you're gonna be able to enjoy quite a high speed website loading time, because you've got a whole chunk of serving space for yourself, and you can kind of allocate how much space you want to give to each of your other clients, blah blah blah. If you want to typically GoDaddy also offers some sort of like hosting plus domain kind of thing, where you can kind of like pay for both things at the same time, and that goes for as cheap as $10 a month. So it really depends. In my case, I'm just going to average it up to $25 a month. The more you pay for hosting, typically the better results you're going to get. I truly encourage you not to play it cheap when it comes to hosting. Speed performance is actually a huge thing that you want to consider when building a website, and therefore, don't spend $3,000 a month if you're building a consulting website or a coaching site, but don't play it cheap either. All right, so let's keep going. A caching service. So caching is huge. You're probably going to be willing to install WordPress Rocket, which is the one that I typically use. It's $60 a year. That adds up to $5 a month. It's crucial. It's going to make your website faster. There's nothing really much in there to add other than that it really is something that you're probably going to want to need. I did include a star in there because you may not need it if you're building a very, very simple and small website or a simple funnel. You may not need to have that expense on your list. But if you're working with images, if you're building an e-commerce store or something like that, you definitely want to be caching your site so that people don't actually have to load the entire website every single time they visit your site. So that's definitely something to consider. Again, like I said, $60 a year, $5 a month. Let's keep going. Imagify, this one's definitely a start, mainly because Imagify, you can probably kind of like guess what it is already. Imagify is going to be the plugin that you're going to be using if you want to optimize images for web. And this is actually a huge deal because particularly people that are starting out don't realize the importance of having very, very optimized images uploaded onto your website. Images are typically something big, and for you, in order for you to wrap up the whole speed performance thing, your website is going to load super quickly if there's nothing really, heavy to be loading. How do I describe this? So the more things that there are to load on your website, the longer it's going to take for the actual site to load, right? And if your images are heavy in size, it's gonna make your website load slowly. And if they're not heavy in size and they're properly optimized, you're gonna be able to load them pretty quickly. Imagify is crucial if you're working with a website that uses a lot of images, somewhat heavy images. Typically, even if you don't actually use Imagify, you really want to optimize them with Photoshop or Pixelmator. Or if you have a photographer, make sure you tell them before actually getting a photo shoot done that you're planning on using these images for web and that you want them optimized for web. But again, if you're doing e-commerce and you've got 1,000 products with individual images for each product, you definitely want Imagify in there. Imagify is, I think it's made by the same guys that actually built WordPress Rocket. It's $60 a year, $5 a month. Definitely something to consider. Thrive is a must. There's no star icon there because you definitely want Thrive installed. It's $30 a month for a simple website. They've just recently launched the Thrive theme builder, which we're going to learn how to properly use it to build websites. Thrive is simply magic. It is probably, I've been working with Thrive for the past 4 or 5 years, 5 years now, and it's simply, it is the one tool that I really think, the guys from Thrive to actually have built, because it is simply what's going to let us build our website the way we want to build, right? It's the key component that's going to let us replicate any website out there. If you want to build the New York Times, you can build the New York Times thanks to Thrive. Thrive is a must. We're going to be getting a license. If you're planning on building an agency or if you're planning on building many websites, you're probably going to have to get a more expensive license. I think the agency one is $100 a month. It's the one that I have. If you're only building a simple website, then $30 a month will do it, but you definitely need a license. Slider Revolution. So this one's my favorite. Every single time I'm building websites for clients right now, I typically buy a license of Slider Revolution because Thrive allows us to build websites however we want, but Slider Revolution is the tool that is going to let us make them super slick and super, just customize them in a more futuristic way. We can add in some graphic design effects. We can add in some cool animations across background sections, and I really, really like it. Don't get, a lot of people actually when I approach other website builders and I tell them about Slider Revolution, they automatically go like, wait, slider? No, I don't do sliders, and I 100% understand that sliders have been proven to be horrible in terms of conversions. They distract users, but don't get stuck in the name. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if these guys actually rebrand into a different name, because it really is a little confusing. Slider Revolution is not even about sliders anymore. They make really fancy video animation effects and graphic design effects on your websites, and it's really cool. All right, let's keep going. Slider Revolution is $30 for a simple license. You can only use it on one website, but I mean it's only $30 a month. It's not even $30 a month. It's a one-time payment, so that's pretty cool. A unique theme. So here's the thing. Now that the Thrive theme builder is actually out and available for everyone, you're still going to want to make use of unique themes in specific situations. For example, and hear me out here, because it's not that difficult to understand this. There's in some instances where you're going to want to be using a very specific website per se. For example, if you're building an e-commerce store for a client that sells dresses, it's going to be a pain in the ass to build a homepage that displays WooCommerce products in a specific way, and you've got reviews and testimonials in there and blah 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 blah, and on top of all of that, you want to make it look super nice and super fancy. And to be honest, it's just simply easier for you if you buy a unique theme. Typically I buy them from ThemeForest, and then I edit the theme however I want using Thrive Architect. This is still probably going to be my way of doing things when it comes to building very, 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 very particular kind of websites. For example, and I'm going to be showing you examples of this in upcoming modules, but when it comes to, for example, building a publication site. So say, for example, that I want to build the New York Times. You can build it with Thrive Architect, but it's probably going to take you like 1,000 hours, if not more, to build the goddamn New York Times using Thrive. It's just simply not worth your time. It's simply not worth anyone's time, and it's probably not going to be worth for your client if he's paying you to do this, because it's just going to be crazy expensive for him. So it's simply better to just buy a theme that actually does what you wanted it to do, and then build the inside pages and customize the theme however you want using Thrive. And don't worry, I'm going to teach you how to do this. But a unique theme, a good one, is typically $100, and you can just buy it from ThemeForest. They've got really cool ones, actually. Manage WordPress. This is actually not a start. You gotta get Manage WordPress. It's $2 a month if you want daily backups of your website. I really encourage you to do this. Manage WordPress itself is free. You can just set up an account and link your WordPress websites. It will keep your plugins up to date. You can update plugins for 25 different websites, if not more, all from a single dashboard. It's great if you're building a marketing agency and you want to keep all of your different websites synced into one place, and you want to keep them maintained, and you want to keep all of your plugins up to date. It's really, really cool. And if you want to make daily backups of your website, it's only $2 a month. And you're going to definitely make use of those daily backups, because one day you're going to wake up and your website is going to be broken for no apparent reason. And you're going to be like, okay, what the hell happened? Let me just restore yesterday's version, or, the week's, the version from a week ago or something. Definitely worth it. Clickmeter. So Clickmeter is not even actually a plugin. I'm not even sure why I installed or I included Clickmeter, but Clickmeter is essentially that. It's a meter to keep track of link clicks and, just a bunch of different analytics. It's $30 a month if you want to try it out. I really use it to make sure that I keep track of how my links are performing, if people are actually clicking on them. Not crucial, but it's insightful if you want to try it out. Convertbox. So here's the thing. When you buy your license for Thrive, you're going to get something called Thrive Leads, which essentially lets you collect leads and build an email list, right? Or, email list and get phone numbers, whatever you want. But there's this thing called Convertbox, which is simply outstanding. It is probably one of, after Thrive, it's probably one of my favorite marketing tools that I've ever encountered. It allows you to essentially do, it does what Thrive Leads does. It's a lead magnet tool. Okay, it lets you collect leads, but it gives you so much information, and it gives you so much, so many different possibilities and ways in which you can actually collect leads. How do you want to do this? The customization effects, the statistics, the data, the information. How well are they performing? Super easy to install. Super easy to use, and it's very insightful. I really recommend people to get Convertbox, even though they may have access to Thrive Leads. Convertbox is a one-time payment of $300 right now. I'll probably link a link below for you to check it out. They're gonna switch to a month-to-month plan, so it might be worth it for you to buy it right now if you're interested. I'm not really sure when you're watching this video, so it may not even be available by the time you're watching this, but it's definitely super insightful. I have access to Thrive Leads, and I couldn't encourage you more to get Convertbox. But don't worry, if you're not interested in making that investment, I'm still going to teach you how to use Thrive Leads and how to build an email list just using Thrive Leads. iZooto. So iZooto is, so essentially when you've visited the New York Times or the Washington Post or pretty much any other publication site today, you've probably come across this browser notification that prompts you to allow the website to send you browser notifications. So that's essentially what iZooto does. It's a tool for you to build a list of browsing notification people that have opted in to receive browsing notifications from you. Now it's $25 a month for, I think it's like 2,500 people. Unless you're a publication site or unless you're somewhat of a big e-commerce or retail store, I don't encourage you to spend the money in this. I'm missing a star there. It's here. Unless you really have that influx of traffic coming onto your website, or unless you're actually giving people a reason to visit your website every day, just may not be worth it. It's really cool for, like I said, publication sites. It's really cool to drive traffic to your website on a day-to-day basis. But if you're only, I'd much rather have you spend that money in, for example, your email CRM, getting a better email CRM, or getting a Facebook Messenger management system or something like that. But if you're a publication site, you may consider this. I've used it before and I like it, and I actually use it in some websites. So Postmark and WordPress SMTP, you need this pretty much all the time or every time you're planning on emailing people out from your website. Let me just give you a real life scenario here. If you're building a membership site and people run through your checkout system, once they've actually checked out, they're going to have to receive access to your course or your website or your something, right? They get login credentials delivered to them via email. Well, that process from them checking out to them receiving those login credentials is not going to happen unless you actually get Postmark and WordPress SMTP. It's just a way of actually making sure your email deliverability, I can't really pronounce that word, gets successfully implemented into your website. If you don't get this up and running, people are not going to get emails. It's not expensive, but the combination of both things is $10 a month, I think. And you get a lot of, I think you get up to 10,000 emails a month, which is a lot. I mean, I don't think you're going to be emailing out 10,000 times in a month unless you're planning on building a huge website. But let's keep going. So total amount, we got $133 a month of recurring income. It is an expense. I mean, building a website is an expense. Now, keep in mind that some of these things you're probably not going to buy. For example, Imagify, you may not need if you're not really inserting a lot and heavy images into your website. Clickmeter, you may not want to spend the money in. There's a lot of personal needs that goes into this. Eventually you're going to buy whatever you think is best for your business, but these are things that I've personally invested it in the past, and I think they're worth checking out. And as a one-time payment, you're going to spend a total amount of $430, and that's only if you end up getting Convertbox. If not, though, the amount reduces drastically. So yeah, I think this is a good recap. I mean, a total amount, I gotta change the amount here. It says $98, but it's actually $133. And that was it for module 1. That was the accounting module. You can somehow expect to pay between it's either $100 up front or $400 up front, and then a total amount of $130 tops per month. I may have left out some plugins because I can't really go over every single plugin out there, and I can't really go over every single business and niche that there's out there. But this is typically what I average for every single website that I've personally built in the past. So yeah, next module is going to be about Google Tag Manager. You really want to listen into the next module, because Google Tag Manager is crucial. It is important. You're probably going to want to watch the next module more than once. We're going to be talking about what it is, how do we use it, how do I get it up and running on my website, and it's a very important module. And yeah, just tune in, listen in, and I'll see you in the next module. Thank you for listening.